Dungeon Kart is a game that was demoed at last Gen Con. I played it then, I loved it, and I bought a copy. I also bought an expansion, so full disclosure, I already mixed in the pieces of the expansion, so some of the components that you see in this video may not be in the basic game, or is it that Dungeon Edition had the extra stuff? In any case, it's not exactly or only the basic game. Dungeon Kart is a game in which you will be controlling fantasy characters that are driving go-karts, and they're gonna bump into each other as the game progresses. They will be collecting coins, they will be collecting spells that work like power-ups at the end of a turn. If you collected a power-up, you will get a different power-up from a different deck of cards based on where you are. So if you are behind, you will collect from deck C, which has the best cards. If you're in front, you'll collect less useful power-ups from deck A. So ideas that you may have heard of or seen in other games, I wonder where they got them. You will create a racetrack. This is not the full racetrack, it's just an example I put together with some tiles, and there are more, so you're gonna have a lot of variety there. Then, in order to play the game, each player needs to set up their cart and also to select a pilot. Each pilot is represented by a card with different powers, and basically what they do, the difference is they have different effects based on the expenditure of coins. You will collect coins as you as you drive through certain spaces on the board. Suppose I'm playing as Belladonna. Then you also choose your cart. Each cart is represented by a dashboard, and they are indeed different from one another, as you can see here from the different labels. And then you can see already the different numbers applied to different symbols, and we'll see later what that does. You're gonna use this lever here to keep track of the gear that you're using. My only complaint about the components is that not all of these are equally tight. I tried to press as hard as I could. Maybe I need to use a hammer, but that may also not work. So that from time to time, at certain speeds, that is what happens. So in practice, in reality, it's so cool to have the dashboard standing that way. In practice, some of us, with some of these cards, play this way, and so that's how it works. You're gonna place all of your pilots, of course, in the starting area. You're also gonna place some random tokens in some specific areas of the board to indicate things that happen when you enter that space. For example, you may be able to advance a number of spaces for free, indicated by the roll of a custom die. Since we are dungeon monster, heroes are bad, and so bad stuff happens. So, at the beginning of your turn, and players will alternate taking turns, at the beginning of your turn, you must change your speed from where it is. Everybody starts at speed 3, which is the lowest, so the first turn, you must move it here. Starting from the next turn, you could choose to go up one level or down one level. And of course, everything can be broken, every rule can be broken or altered by specific game effects. But the general idea is that you must move your speed up by 1 or down by 1. Suppose you're starting here to make things a little more interesting. So, I was here and I decided to go up by 1. Now I have 9, and that is the number of points that I must spend at all costs. I can't just decide to be a little carefree about it. The general idea is that you will spend, the default is that you spend movement points to move forward, and you will spend as many as indicated by the dots there. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So these spaces here are 1 movement point per space. Some of the spaces are a lot more complicated, of course. Your dashboard also tells you what other maneuvers are possible and how often. For example, again, moving simply means you move forward in the hex directly ahead from the one from where you're facing, spending the number of movement points. If there is a car in front of you, as you move, you can bump it. Which, for this car here that Belladonna is driving, since it is heavy, there is no extra cost for bumping somebody. So I can move there, bumping that player there at the cost of simply of the space that I'm entering. If I was driving this car, on top of that, I would also need to pay a movement point for that. Again, different cards have different effects that way. Also, once per turn, I may drift for free, in the sense of like not paying any extra cost. Drifting then means instead of moving straight in the hex straight in front of me, I can move this way. Oh, and I collect a token. At the end of the game, these spell tokens will be turned into cards, giving me power-ups depending on where I end up at the end of the turn. Once per turn, I can also turn by 60 degrees, and that's the way it works. Meaning, as I turn, and for example, for this card, I can do it once per turn, and it costs me 1 movement point just to go, because this is a heavy card. This other car, again, I can only once per turn, but it costs no points per se. So I move, and I do my things, and after I move, suppose that I end my movement there. After I move, I check my dashboard, and I need to lower my speed to the worst type of terrain that I may have encountered during the turn. So, for example, if I was at 11 and I did touch grass at some point, then I need to go down to 6. If I was below the worst type of terrain that I encountered, then I don't go up. This is just a penalty. And also, this very simple way of bumping the speed down is how you reconcile effects, such as the opponents are playing a power-up that spins you out. Then you move it there. You hit a wall, or there's a game effect that crashes you. Boom. It's that simple. And so from there, then you need to rebuild your speed slowly. Okay, suppose I crashed because of a game effect. Now it's my turn. I need to move it by 1, and I want to move it by 4. So I turn this way. 1, because it's a heavy card. It costs me 1 point to turn. 3, 4. 1 to turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I will collect 2 coins. And I will collect 2 coins as I did that. And here I have, maybe it's the golden edition that has metal coins. Ooh, but not real gold. I have to give you that disclaimer there. So that's how we do it. It's pretty simple, really. Again, players will activate. They must change their speed by 1. They must resolve the effects of the things that they encounter. Again, once per turn, they may turn and or drift. And possibly, again, spend use personal effects based on the coins. If they have them, they can spend them to trigger these things. So once we're done, that is when we look at the track and we reconcile that display there with the order, the turn in which we are. And so, for example, Belladonna right now would be second, this character here would be first, and so on and so forth. And that's, suppose that Belladonna had collected a spell token, then she would draw it from this deck, which allows you, say, to place a zombie token right behind you. If another racer hits the zombie token, they spin out, and we remember how that is resolved by lowering your speed to that level. And that's just some examples of like, oh, these cards are not whatchamacallit. These are the epic heroes, some heroes that, again, remember, they're pesky heroes attacking us. And so you can probably, if you want to get a sense, you can pause the video and read the text. But again, these are, C is better than B and B is better than A, because that's the loop there. The further behind you are at the end of a turn, the more powerful the spells, also informally known as power-ups, that you collect. Victory conditions, it's a race. So you gotta get there first, and that's how you win the game. Who doesn't like Mario Kart? Come on, that is one of those universal pleasers in life and in society. And clearly this game draws inspiration from many concepts and many ideas from that game. And it does it very well. If you want to play a Mario Kart, the board game, without the license from Nintendo, without Mario, but with that general spirit, this is what this game does. You're going to have a large number of tracks that you can create, or courses that you can create, going in different ways, different terrain. Within the same geography, even if you're playing it that way, you're going to have different environmental elements as you draw them from the back, from pesky heroes to different kinds of dirt on the ground, walls, those ramps that give you extra movement. So the geography is going to change all the time. You can combine different pilots with different cars, and that gives you pluses and minuses in each case. It really captures the spirit of first that amount of variety, but then most importantly, it does capture the spirit of the flow of the action. For you're gonna have because the pace, the architecture of the game changes definitely. You're gonna have at the beginning a lot of intensity, people being packed and close to each other and possibly already throwing stuff at each other, bumping into each other, trying to get the opponents out of position. Then things will spread out as players can be way ahead or way behind, but just like it happens in the game, not everything is said and done until later in the game, because then at some point the people in front, they may make a single mistake about positioning themselves. They may be attacked, most likely by power-ups from people behind, and so then the people behind are going to catch up, and again you're going to have moments in which people look a lot closer, then spread out again, then closer again, possibly toward the end of the game, which of course is what makes it exciting. And maybe when you play with 6, you're gonna have somebody way behind, but you're gonna have a nice packed group of players that are really struggling to make that final push. It's nice and fun and simple, and it is a game that you will want to play with a large number of people. It goes from 2 to 8, and really that's what it is. I would play, with five and up, because you want the chaos, you want all these interactions. The flow is fun, the decisions are interesting, planning your moves ahead. Very often you can do it, then, which means also the game will go fast because I plan my movements, and in many cases I'll be able to execute the turn as I have planned it ahead. From time to time they throw a power up on me, and guess what happens? Then from 11 I'm down to 3, which I can also plan pretty quickly. So you're not going to have a lot of analysis paralysis, again, because if something unexpected happens, usually then I have a lower allowance of movement points and makes it very easy to plan that way. But there's constant action, constant interaction, constant variety of actions, but again, they do not affect the gameplay and the flow of gameplay, which is quite remarkable. The action is fun. Of course, there's gonna be a confrontational element. I had a player say, "Oh my gosh, you're never gonna invite me over," and guess what? He just pushed me against the wall and crashed my walls. And I thought, that's it. I played 18xx games. Those are evil. In this game, you throw some stuff at me, you push me against an epic hero who causes me to spin out, things like that. That's nothing. It's all in the good spirit of being a little bit mean to each other. But of course, there's the irony of I'm a big orc. I am a character called Porcus on a tiny cart. It's funny. It's hard to take it too seriously. This kind of bad stuff that you do to each other, everybody does it, and it's part of the game. I love how you have that nice rubber banding element. Of course, the best power-ups being at the end, which is something that we've seen in the video game already. Maybe the one negative, it's that at the end of every turn you have to take a break from the game to redo the rankings, because that determines the kind of power-ups that you have. It's a little bit It's not overwhelming, but it just detracts a bit from the flow of the game. And I wasn't the only one who said, like, well, that's the one thing of the game that when everything else is so nice and streamlined and easily hardwired onto the system, feels a little bit fiddly and cause a little break there. Maybe there will be tweaks there, but the game is super fun, it's super enjoyable. That is the only negative, and it's a very minor one that is far from being a deal breaker. Matter of fact, I think that this game will see some significant time on the table because you can play with with a large number of players. The general idea is one that is known to everybody. Once you tell them it's Mario Kart, the board game, they already know a lot of how this thing works. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that I picked up a copy of Dungeon Kart at Gen Con because I'm enjoying it a lot.